Logos and Text, Trades Win Share Your Success, MCB, Massachusetts Commission for the Blind, Polis Center for Social and Economic Development.
TradesWin is a project run by visually impaired students in collaboration with the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind and the Polis Center. This project tells the stories of blind professionals in a variety of careers. By sharing these stories, we hope to show the world how blind individuals can be successful in a variety of different career paths.
Olivia and Andrew sit across from each other. Text, Olivia Leger, interviewer.
Hi, my name is Olivia.
Andrew Leland, author and podcaster.
Hello, I'm Andrew.
Andrew Leland's story.
So Andrew, can you tell me a little bit about what you do for work?
The first part of my career was at a magazine called The Believer. It was around. It's a monthly magazine. Now it publishes less frequently. Arts and culture, interviews and essays. And the interviews are often with like artists or philosophers or musicians, things like that.
Andrew speaks into a microphone.
There was a really great public radio station in LA called KCRW that always wanted to collaborate with us. I was able to kind of convert a lot of my experience as a magazine editor and bring it to developing this podcast called The Organist that I did for about 5 years. About 2 years ago now, I sold a book proposal to a commercial publisher, and they gave me an advance, so it's bought me the time to focus on writing full time.
Could you tell me a little bit about your vision history?
Sure. I have retinitis pigmentosa. I first noticed night blindness when I was a teenager, and then that's how I got diagnosed. And then it was very, very gradual through my 20s, where really I even drove at night.
Car headlights on the road at night.
For like in the early part of my 20s, and kept driving until my late 20s. And then, but it's just this like really gradual tunnel vision. So by the time I was in my early 30s, I had stopped driving, and then I stopped riding a bike.
Olivia and Andrew use white canes.
Just as like the tunnel got narrower and narrower. Maybe about 5 years ago now, I decided to start using a cane full time in public.
So you mentioned before that you have an upcoming book. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to call it The Country of the Blind, which is also the name of a short story by H.G. Wells, who was a early 20th century sci-fi writer who wrote like The Time Machine. And
a river runs through a misty mountain valley.
That short story is about like a lost civilization that's only blind people. That's sort of like in this hidden valley that sort of existed for generations of just blind people. And this sighted explorer gets separated from his expedition and falls into this valley, and then has to figure out how to live in the country of the blind. And I like that metaphor or that idea because for me, as I described, I grew up sighted. I had night blindness, but I never really could call myself blind. I wasn't blind. I had this inconvenient thing happening at night. But otherwise, I was driving cars, I was reading normal print. Everything was totally the sighted way. And then now, as I mentioned, I'm getting, as I approach middle age, I am entering the country of the blind.
A lush green wooded landscape.
Right? I'm legally blind. I use a cane. I'm still in this sort of in-between place. But I'm definitely, there's no question that RP, there's no treatment for it. I'm going to lose my vision. Or at least more vision and become more blind.
He scrolls through text on a digital device.
And so the book is really a way, part of it is a memoir that kind of explores and describes that experience, but then the other part of it is this exploration of the country of the blind, thinking about how blindness affects and intersects with reading and with TV and movies, and so I'm just like, anything I can think of that in my life that I'm interested in that blindness is going to touch, I've sort of been exploring in this book. So it's nonfiction with memoir, but also a lot of like reporting and adventures outward looking into the world of blindness.
Has anybody ever told you that you couldn't do something because of your blindness, or that doing something wasn't a good idea?
Well, it's complicated for me because like I said, I grew up sighted, so I think I have been I dodged a lot of the things that somebody who grows up blind or visually impaired has to deal with.
An instructor and students in a classroom.
And, so I just want to acknowledge that being in school with a visual impairment, is such, that I didn't have that experience, then I recognize that as a really profound experience that I think can affect people really deeply. That, so sometimes I even feel weird calling myself blind in that way, because I'm just like, I've lived like a very privileged existence, and now I'm like, only now as a 40-year-old dealing with this stuff.
Flipping pages of a book.
Like magazine journalism, you have to fill it with these visual details. And I was doing that because I have, I'm low vision, I can see those things. But I've started to wonder how I'll be able to do that without the ability to gather those details.
So if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, either about your visual journey or your work future, what would you say?
Rows of bookshelves in a library.
I think I would probably say something that my blindness mentors, who I've sort of sought out over the last couple of years, have told me, which is that you want to stay ahead of your visual impairment. And this is maybe particularly applicable to people like me with degenerating vision. As a really brilliant librarian at the New York Public Library, Andrew High School Braille and Talking Book Library, it's like their sort of like blindness branch. Her name is Chancey Fleet. She's like one of the smartest people I've ever talked to, and has given me great advice about blindness. But when I was talking to her in New York, one of the things she said to me was like, when your vision changes without your permission, is that the time that you want to be learning voiceover?
A child's hands read Braille.
And the answer is like, definitely not. Like there's going to be a lot of other stuff I'm going to be dealing with, probably emotional stuff, probably like other practical stuff, and I want to be ready for that moment.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. It was very nice talking to you today.
Sure, my pleasure.
Credits: produced by Victoria and Olivia Leger, directed by Victoria Leger, written by Victoria and Olivia Leger, edited by Victoria Leger, director of photography Victoria Leger, cinematographers Victoria Leger and Cameron Adibi. Interviewed by Olivia Leger. Special thanks to Andrew Leland. This has been a Tradeswin project. In association with Massachusetts Commission for the Blind, MCB, Centers for Social and Media Development, Polis Center, Adibi Productions. Equipment and facility provided by Ash West Community Media, AWCM.